Hello, cricket and baseball fans. Toronto Blue Jays are hosting Cricket Night at the Park presented by TD this Friday, May the 10th. Experience the same thrill of cricket with the Blue Jays at Rogers Centre and get yourself a white Blue Jays cricket hat. T20 World Cup champion, remember the name Carlos Brathwaite will be there, the Canadian cricket team will be there, and many more exciting guests as well. There will be lots of cricket-related activities like batting cages and cricket-themed photo ops, as well as the T20 World Cup being unveiled at the event. Don't miss out on this wonderful event. Bring your family, bring your friends. Tickets can be found at bluejays.com/cricket or in the links below. See you guys there. Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and this is an episode about every single T20 World Cup that has ever happened from 2007 all the way to 2022. With me, as always, is my co-host and my brother, Bashar Sayed. Hello, welcome to a Backward Point Legacy podcast leading up to this upcoming T20 World Cup. We're about just a month away, and I thought it would be a great idea to just sit back, reflect on all the World Cups that have happened since the first one in 2007 to the last one that happened in Australia in 2022. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I hope you guys have a good time. We're going to look back at every World Cup, top performers, highlights, key moments. And then obviously, because we have a Pakistani background, there's going to be a Pakistan POV of how Pakistan played in that World Cup, how things could have gone, and what are our memories. Because the cool part about this podcast will be that we've watched every single World Cups, T20 World Cup since its inception. So I have memories, I have thoughts, and I think I want to be sitting here reflecting on them. We've watched the World Cups together.
Yeah, I think we are the T20 World Cup generation, for better or for worse. Maybe the ODI World Cup generation was our parents, but this is definitely our tournament. This is something that we've grown up with from the start. So the analysis that we may give will be based on experience. And we can't always say that about the ODI World Cups. I wasn't there in 1983 when India won, so I don't know exactly what the ramifications of that were. You know, I can always be in hindsight and I can always read all about it, but you know, being in that moment is different. And we were in that moment from 2007 onwards.
But you were there when India won in 2007.
I was there when India won in 2007.
You remember it?
I remember that. I remember how defeated I felt after that final. And I remembered how, you know, it was one of the first times that I truly felt dejected and like, oh, this is a really weird, cumbersome feeling. I don't know how to navigate this.
It's funny you say that because this is the same year where the ICC hosted the ODI World Cup and Pakistan lost to West Indies and Ireland, and they had a first round exit, and then our coach died. Rest in peace, Bob Wilmer. So you were saying you felt even more dejected by losing to India in the final.
Yeah, because obviously you were so close to that, you know, to that crowning achievement. And whatever happens, India will always be the team that won the first T20 World Cup of all time. Like they will never, nobody can take that away from them. And it would have been nice to be that team. Even though we ran it back the next time we went in, it was, you know, the inaugural event. And it was India in the finals. And we weren't able to get that monkey off our back for another 15 years almost. It was just one of those things that would have been nice to just have it done and dusted. And then you wouldn't have a 7-0, 8-0 situation.
And all those Star Sports ads.
Yeah, like it would have been done. Like so much marketing would have been down the drain. It would have been a nice little inflection point for us. But yeah, it was one of my first tastes of how defeat feels when you root for a team and that sort of parasocial relationship you have with that said team. And it was all uphill or downhill from there, depending on your lens. But you know, one thing that did happen was it solidified superstars in my mind for the Pakistan cricket team. Shahid Afridi, Umar Gul, Abdul Razak. These guys were they were really good players and favorites of that era. They just elevated themselves into superstars and continue to solidify themselves after that World Cup. So yeah, how about we just dive deep into this? And I'm glad that you mentioned the 2007 World Cup because that's the first one we're going to be talking about. We'll go in a chronological order and we'll hit every single World Cup all the way to 2022.
I think this World Cup was very important for the ICC for a couple of reasons and also just in the broad prospect of cricket. Firstly, the 2007 ODI World Cup, you can say from a financial point of view, was a flop for the ICC because two of the major cricketing teams, being Pakistan and India, had a first round exit. Now, we all know that ICC gets most of their broadcast viewership from India and Pakistan. So having both of them out of the World Cup the first round made sure that not a lot of people were still following the World Cup. And then just the backlash that happened in India and in Pakistan, can't imagine what those players of those times were going through.
Do you remember what teams India lost from? I think they
India
were beat by
lost, the last time the loss was to Bangladesh. And that was sort of the final,
Yeah.
nail in the coffin. And for the ICC to then adapt to the T20 format, because before this, there were games happening. I remember the first ever international T20 game that happened between Pakistan and England. It was Pakistan's first ever match. It was in 2006 in Bristol. And then T20 cricket just sort of, it kicked on. The UK was a bit ahead of everybody because they had their T20 Blast tournament happening since 2003. So ICC finally gave in, had this World Cup, and India, the team that got a first round exit, sent in a brand new, fresh team with fresh faces, a brand new captain, and MS Dhoni. The World Cup was happening in South Africa, beautiful stadiums. A lot of people say that Lord's Cricket Ground is the best cricket ground in the world, but people who have been to Wanderers say that Wanderers is the most beautiful ground in the world. I think it's in between mountains and there's a beautiful view. There's grass banks, people sit on top, and the environment, the atmosphere of that stadium is unmatched. Just Lords may have had the history, but I think Wanderers, for people who have been there, and I would myself love to experience Wanderers because we've been to Lords, we've watched the game at the World Cup. I would love to see how Wanderers compares.
So 2024 Pakistan South Africa series. Are we reaching or not?
Maybe.
Sounds like a good one, right?
Maybe.
Boxing Day test?
Let's see. So the tournament happened with 12 teams, and they were split into 4 groups of 3, and then the top 2 teams from each group, I believe they went to the Super 8 or Super 6 stage. They were Super 8 stage. And then there were 4 groups of each. They played each other for the semifinalists and finalists. Now, my first memory of that World Cup is the Pakistan-India Super 8 match that happened, the one that was tied, the one that went to a bowl-out, and that's the first glimpse of MS Dhoni's genius we saw on display. The game was tied, and then ICC had this incredible idea, let's do a bowl-out, which is similar to penalties in soccer or football. And on the Pakistani side, we saw Pakistan's main frontline bowlers trying to target the stumps. Whereas in India, they had part-timers like Virender Sehwag and Robin Uthappa bowling to the stumps. So Pakistan had Umar Gul, Shahid Afridi, and Yasir Arfad, who all 3 of them failed to hit the stumps. Now, I've heard Robin Uthappa and other players from that World Cup talk about that bowl out, and they mentioned that they had the game awareness that the ICC had brought this rule in, and they were practicing this in their practices before matches. So firstly, they were prepared. And secondly, they knew what to expect. And Dhoni made the decision of giving picking Harbhajan, Robin Uthappa, and Sehwag because they were the ones who were dismantling the stumps the most times in practices.
And in pure Pakistani fashion, we just forgot to do our assignment. No homework was done. And we just were like, vibes. We'll give it to a long-haired Umar Gul. You know, never brought that hairstyle back. But it was interesting to see that because I was going through the highlights and I was like, I forgot that, you know. When he went into the 2009 World Cup, Umar Gul was more of a crew cut, like more of a civilized fast bowler. And I think that was also that era where, you know, Shoaib Akhtar was at his peak and there was Mohammad Asif was there and long-haired fast bowlers were like a thing. I remember, wasn't like Nathan Bracken also had that headband from Australia. So it was a vibe. It was interesting to see Umar Gul like that. Missed the stumps completely. That bowl out was the first nail in the coffin until we went to the finals and then it came back. I think the more interesting thing about that World Cup was that I think it was the first time that I saw anybody hit 6 sixes in an international match. And it was Yuvraj Singh versus Stuart Broad. I actually should say Yuvraj Singh versus Andrew Flintoff, and Stuart Broad was at the blunt end of that. And
Collateral damage.
The man had nothing to do with the feud. Just comes in, and you already have fired up Yuvraj Singh, and Yuvraj just completely blasted him all over the ground, 360. And you could see, for better or for worse, kind of solidified the end and the beginning of the end of Stuart Broad's white ball career, because he didn't really have a long career after that. He moved all the way over to red ball and then just became red ball.
Well, actually, I think he played until the 2015 World Cup for ODIs.
But it wasn't, at that point, it was just like, he wasn't able to translate those numbers that he had in the test matches over to the white ball. And I feel like there was a monkey hanging on his back, which was like, I got whipped across the stadium by Yuvraj Singh.
I have an opinion. So Stuart Broad gets hit for 6 sixes by Yuvraj Singh. I guarantee you, if that had been a bowler from India or Pakistan, that would have likely have been their last game of their career. For Stuart Broad to then go out to get the amount of test wickets he did, the longevity he had in his career.
But he also focused on test cricket a lot more. I feel like both him and Jimmy Anderson, they both played the 2011 World Cup.
And the 15 World Cup.
Yes, but for me, they're always test bowlers. Their white ball accomplishments, for me, have never outshined their test match accomplishments.
I think Jimmy has over 250 ODI wickets. Somebody can fact
I don't
check
remember
me
a
on
single
that.
spell that stands out. Do you?
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, because Jimmy's first ever ODI World Cup in 2003.
Exactly.
He demolished Pakistan's batting attack. I think he took 4 or 5 wickets, and just nobody could play his outswingers.
I mean, that was 2003.
He got Inzamam bowled, Mohammad Yusuf bowled, and other Pakistani batsmen. They just couldn't see him.
Yeah, I mean, again, 2003, it's been a while. It's almost been 20 years. A little bit more, actually, 21 years. And I get that. But again, that was just a little bit of a rise. And then he found his footing in red ball cricket, and then he hasn't looked back. Both of them. Stuart Broad sort of has hung up his cape, but Jamie Anderson is still fighting crime, bro. He's out there.
I think he's over 40 years old. And my bowling inspiration is Jimmy Anderson. I'm like, if this guy can bowl at over 80 miles an hour at his age with his fitness, why am I not being able to bowl 4 overs in the Markham Premier League? By the way, we had our first game yesterday, and we won by 1 run.
I saw that. I was following that game. You guys can follow along as well. Crick Clubs, Share CC.
I prefer you not.
But I prefer that you do. I would love to have people have eyeballs on Bashar's cricket performance.
Hey, but we had a good game. It was we played in the midst of fog. I've never played in such conditions in my life before, where almost half the ground was covered in fog and I couldn't see who was on the other side of the wicket.
Yeah.
So new experience, fun experience.
It's one of those things where, Premier League games, bro. That's what happens.
So Yuvraj scored a 12 ball 50, which at the time was the fastest 50 in T20 cricket. Also, just before
that. Is it still
that,
the fastest 50?
It likely is. I would love to be fact checked. I'm not sure exactly.
I'll check it.
Months before that, Yuvraj was himself hit for 5 sixes by somebody called Dimitri Mascarenhas from England at the Oval. So I'm sure Yuvraj had some sort of flavor of what it feels like to be hit for that many sixes consecutively. I thought it was amazing that Ravi Shastri was on the commentary. So for him to be walking us through each and every 6 was pretty special.
Dipinder Singh Airy has a 9 ball 50.
He's from Nepal.
Nepal versus Mongolia. That happened last year in
How
September.
many balls?
9 balls.
9 balls.
And then Yuvraj with 12 balls has the second fastest T20I 50 of all time. I believe Shahid Afridi should be on this list somewhere.
That's
for
wild.
18 or 19, I believe. Shoaib Malik is on the list.
Shoaib Malik.
18 ball 50 against Scotland in 2021 Sharjah. We got Gambhir on the list with the 19 ball 50. Yuvraj is on the list a few times, actually. Yuvraj with 20 ball 50 twice against Sri Lanka and Australia as well. So there you go. One thing that also solidified, again, personally speaking, for me in the 2007 World Cup was how much I fell in love with Shahid Afridi. I believe he was the player of the tournament for this 2007 World Cup. And he sort of cemented his place as a proper bowling all-rounder. He was known for his wildly successful, cameos when he would come in and blast the opponent off. But it was his bowling where he really wanted people to know that he may actually just be a bowling all-rounder. I remember there was a lot of back and forth through his career where is he a batting all-rounder? Is he a bowling all-rounder? Sometimes
Not even he knew.
Sometimes he's a bowling all-rounder, sometimes he's a batting all-rounder. And that's like the beauty of Shahid Afridi's career. Like you can pinpoint a specific era and be like, oh, this is when he was like just bowling out of his mind. Like the 2011 World Cup. 21 wickets, insane. But then you could go back to like the 2004-05 India Pakistan series, and you're like, oh, he was opening and he was batting like in the top order and using the power play or whatever they called it at the time. And like, it's just lovely to see that his career has so many different arcs. The captain arc, the revenge arc, the I'm not gonna retire yet arc. Like, it's just beautiful to see. And the 2007 World Cup, that's when I was like, oh, this is I think my favorite player of all time. Has to be.
Afridi took 12 wickets in 7 innings at an economy of 6.7. At the same time, he also scored 91 runs at an average of 15 and strike rate of 198.
That's what it was, right? He comes in, he plays 5 balls, 6 balls, he gives you 15 odd runs, 20 odd runs. That's what we needed. And this is, I think, the person that we're missing right now in the Pakistan cricket team, a version of Shahid Afridi that comes in and just goes ballistic. Arguably, Shadab might be that guy, but you know, he has to win us a lot more games before he becomes to that stature.
Well, Shadab did cross Shahid Afridi in terms of the most man of the match awards
and
wickets. Yeah. So I think Shadab does have that potential, but Shadab looks at himself as more of a proper batsman.
Mm-hmm.
I think he takes his batting quite seriously.
Honestly, nobody hits sixes like a Shahid Afridi does, and nobody will. Like, people love Chris Gayle over Shahid Afridi. That's just personal preference, honestly. It's like if you like aloo in your biryani or not. Like, some people do, some people don't. I don't. So that's why I prefer Shahid Afridi. And he's going to be in my, T20 all-time list forever. Maybe a captain in that list.
Even the second match that happened between India and Pakistan, which was the World Cup final, I mean, that is the redemption arc that the ICC wanted. A T20 World Cup happening for the first time in South Africa and India versus Pakistan in the final. It's only happened, twice in ICC events in history?
Yes.
So for India and Pakistan to be in the final.
Two finals and then one semifinal. Those are the only playoff games that Pakistan has played against India. I believe. Fact check us. But I'm pretty sure.
So India scored 157 and Pakistan in response were cruising through. My man Imran Nazir was 33 of 14, hitting 4s and 6s like it was EA Sports Cricket 07. 07. And then he gets run out, which totally changes the whole face of the match because Yunus Khan comes in, he struggles. Shoaib Malik, the captain, comes in and he struggles. And Pakistan is sort of falling back on the pedestal of the run rate. Because when Imran Nazir got out, it was 53 for 3 in 5.4 overs. So basically, Pakistan needed like 105 runs to win in 15 overs, which is just over 6 or 7
like
an over.
Now that's like just like you would turn off the TV and start celebrating if that was the case.
And Yunus Khan and Shoaib Malik are batting, so it should be easy singles and doubles, the odd boundary here and there, but they just struggled.
Shoaib Malik had a criminal 8 runs off 17 balls with a strike rate of 47. Like, if that, like, I don't even know what to do with that. It reminds me of how hard Iftikhar choked in the 2022 final. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but like, that's just not it. And then just like a wild golden duck by Shahid Afridi, but from Irfan Pathan. Like,
it was the battle of the two Pathans. Shahid Afridi said that Irfan Pathan is not a real Pathan.
Yeah.
And then they were having that beef going on.
Yeah.
And Irfan Pathan gets Afridi out. I remember he had a very crazy, a very excited celebration after that wicket.
Irfan Pathan had 4 overs, 16 and 3 wickets.
Yep. He was the man of the match.
Wild
from
Irfan
India.
Pathan. That's the arc that I wouldn't have predicted.
And then Misbah, doing a Misbah, he pulls the game back, smashes 6s to Harbhajan Singh. And we come towards the last over. And at this point, I think Harbhajan Singh had 1 over left. And then Joginder Sharma, who a lot of kids watching may not even know who that guy is, but you'll find out that he saved that game for India in the end.
See, this is how weird like my memories. I remember Munaf Patel bowling that over.
No.
But it was Joginder Sharma, who is a T20 World Cup winner.
And now a police officer in India.
Couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
That was, I think, the last match played for India.
And hey, he made it happen. He made it happen. He's in one of the most iconic moments of cricket of all time. Forever cemented.
Pakistan did 13 off 6 in the last over. And first ball that Joginder Sharma balls is a wide. Next ball is a dot. And then Misbah smashes him for a 6-over long off. He walks down the track and just creams it. Pakistan needs 6 off 4. Misbah tries to go for the hero lap shot over short fine leg and gets caught out by Srishant of all the fielders in the world.
Yeah.
I think the best calculation there was that Joginder Sharma balled at like 120, 125 kilometers an hour. There was never enough pace on the ball for him to lap that over for a boundary.
And I think that was the tournament where he actually kind of made the scoop shot famous.
He brought it back.
He brought it back. He was hitting them all over the park. And yeah, I mean, I honestly still nightmares of that. Like, I still remember a defeated Misbah Haq sitting on the pitch, head down, and just, yeah, I don't know, man. It gets tough talking about it.
I think Misbah's legacy, sadly, is that when you think of Misbah Haq, the first thing you think of is that scoop shot.
Yeah.
The second thing you think of is the slow innings he played in the semi-final in 2011. And then maybe you're like, okay, he was also a good test captain. He brought the team back after the whole match fixing scandal.
Yeah.
But you hear Misbah's interviews and he still backs himself, saying that if I was in that position again, I would have played the same shot because he was getting lots of runs in that World Cup on that same shot. So why not try it again?
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean,
you live by the sword, you die by it.
But what an inaugural tournament for the ICC for the T20. Like, that just solidified its place in the canon of international cricket. This is hard to argue that it took the sport global. After that, you have the impacts that are still resonating today, which is just the inauguration of the IPL right after that. Still single best IPL ever.
That first match is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Remember Brendan McCullum scored like 150, 158?
Yeah, 158. And like from there, like it was just like go. Like nobody was stopping after that. Leagues became a thing. And it was truly the inflection point of the way that we play cricket today. And it all goes back to this World Cup. And, what would have happened if India hadn't won, if Pakistan had pulled it through? We don't know.
Do you think we would have had the PSL come in before?
Probably not. The PSL, they were trying to get the PSL off the ground since 2011. When we were at the PSL this season, we were told a lot of history about where it actually came out. And it didn't debut until the 2016, 2017 year, but they were planning it for a while now. And who knows, man? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just do know that nothing was the same after that.
Fond memories from that World Cup, but then we go towards the next World Cup in England. Pakistan loves to play World Cups or ICC events in England. The last time an ICC event happened, so the ICC World Cup happened, it was the 1999 World Cup, and Pakistan went all the way to the finals with arguably one of their best ODI teams. So Pakistan goes to this World Cup, a change of captains. Yunus Khan takes over the captaincy from Shoaib Malik. You ask Shoaib Malik, and oftentimes he says that he regrets taking the captaincy in the first place because he felt like he was very young and a lot of the guys in the team were a lot more senior than him. Yunus Khan, I believe, was being groomed as Inzamam's vice captain. So shocking that he did not get the captaincy ahead of Shoaib Malik. But eventually, Yunus did become the captain. Pakistan go to England. And my first memory of that World Cup is me and you sitting at our puppy's house, our aunt's house. And it was the Pakistan versus New Zealand match happening. And it's the game where Umar Gul takes 5 wickets for 6 runs. Just the most incredible display of reverse swing bowling. And more specifically, that catch from Shahid Afridi of Scott Styris while he was running back. I watch that in slow motion sometimes. Like, if you've played any cricket at any level, and if you've taken a catch running back, you know exactly how hard it is. So for Afridi to calculate how high it is, how far back it is, and how close he is to the boundary, take that catch, his hair flying, cap dropping, just the most beautiful scene ever.
And that's some of the best camera work you'll ever see as well. Like just having the camera focused on him as he's running back. And I think that's where the iconic, the X-Man pose of his became common. Like that was it. After that, it was just him there everywhere. Honestly, if the 2007 World Cup didn't introduce Shahid Afridi, the superstar, then 2009 definitely solidified him. Like this is the guy. And I'm honestly, Yunus Khan's captaincy, you don't attribute the Yunus Khan-ness of that team as you do like the 1992 of the Imran Khan-ness of that team. But for whatever reason, you could say there's a lot of theories on why that's the case. He sort of is more forgotten in that sense. Do you agree with that?
He doesn't get the credit he deserves.
There we go. Yeah.
When we speak of good captains in the Pakistan setup, the players who played in Yunus's era mentioned that he's quite strict on rules, regulations, discipline, and that's sort of why all the players rioted against him. But I think that World Cup, one of the best decisions that Yunus Khan made that Mohamed Amir has disclosed is that the selectors at the time did not want to pick Mohamed Amir, but Yunus Khan put the foot down and said that I need this 17-year-old youngster in my team. And then he used Amir brilliantly. It was the first time we saw Amir on the big stage, a 17-year-old kid just running in, hair flying, bowling at 145 clicks, and just showing how much of a big match temperament he has.
Yunus Khan gave him the last over in the semifinal when he had 15 or 14 to defend. And, just the gall in Yunus Khan to do that, and just the way that he stepped up, Mohamed Amir stepped up and made sure that he was in command. This goes to show that he was a born bred superstar, ready to happen. And Yunus really gave him that confidence to make sure that he pursues that line. Again, it's the Shahid Afridi tournament of it all. That Chumma kiss to Jacques Kallis, I still like that's a sticker that I still use every single day.
So context, Jacques Kallis is bowling to Shahid Afridi in the semifinal of a World Cup. He balls him two bumpers that go straight over Afridi's head. They're 90 miles an hour, quick, rapid. And the next ball, Shahid Afridi smacks, the next two balls actually, Shahid Afridi smacks him for back-to-back fours and gives him a virtual kiss to one of the greatest all-rounders in world cricket, Jacques Kallis. So that just showed the confidence level of what Afridi was. And if the 2007 Pakistan team was trying to make a statement, this team was trying to carry that same team's legacy and saying, hey, we have some unfinished business here. We were in the final last time, but we're here to win at this time. And there were a few more important additions in Pakistan's team, one of them being the introduction of Saeed Ajmal, who I think is one of Pakistan's greatest T20 bowlers. It's very hard to make an all-time Pakistan T20 11 without the likes of Ajmal, Afridi, Umar Gul even. So to imagine all these guys were playing the World Cup together, looking back, it seems like that team was way ahead of its time.
Honestly, and just that a lot of those players in that 2009 team would go into an all-time T20 player for Pakistan.
2009.
Yeah.
It's 19.
Oh, I said 19? My bad. 2009 team. 2009 team. That's what I said.
Oh, team.
That's what I said. The 2009 cricket team of the Team Pakistan, a lot of those players would go into their all-time national team. And it shows that they were, I would say that team today would probably go in and give these boys a hard time. One thing I wanted to discuss is the 2009 T20 World Cup was horrible for Team India. When they came into the Super 8s, lost every single game. And the team that they played were all-stars. Gautam Gambhir, Rohit Sharma, Suresh Raina, Yuvraj Singh, Dhoni as captain, Yusuf Pathan, Irfan Pathan, Harbhajan, Zahir Khan. And then Ishant Sharma and Pragyan Oja. These are people, maybe not Oja, but everybody else is an all-timer for Team India. And they completely dropped the ball. They were there to defend their title, but couldn't make it past the Super 8s. Didn't get a single win in that Super 8s tournament.
You know what's interesting? So firstly, this is the first World Cup happening after the IPL, and India doesn't win a single match in the Super 8. But secondly, I was just thinking about this the other day. MS Dhoni has captained India in 2007, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 6 T20 World Cups, and he's won once. So his winning ratio of winning T20 World Cups is 1 of 6.
Yeah.
And do you think sometimes we're a bit too harsh on Pakistani captains? Like after one World Cup, we change them. Or if Babar loses 2 World Cups back to back, we're like, okay, he's not winning anything.
I mean,
let's change him.
This is the first time a Pakistani captain is going to captain a Pakistan squad for the 3rd time at a World Cup. First time ever.
So
That's
the point
pretty
is, like, do captains need a longer run? Like Dhoni had almost like a 9-year tenure as captaining India.
Yeah, but
And in that 9 years, he was able to win 3 trophies.
that was MS Dhoni though. Like that's a different breed. If we had an MS Dhoni type player, then yeah, we would have definitely done that. Was Imran Khan the captain of the 83 World Cup as well?
I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it was
87 he was.
87 and 92 was Imran
83
Khan.
might be Mia actually.
Yeah. Again, I mean, Imran Khan didn't get a 3-term World Cup series. So this is the first time that it is for Pakistan that a Pakistani captain will go in and captain it 3 times. I just want to, again, just touch base a little bit on 2009 World Cup. Group A, this is Group A. India, Ireland, and Bangladesh.
Damn.
I mean, they were set up for India to go back to back, but they threw it in, man. I don't know. That's why I kind of hope that the 2009 World Cup, the only thing that's missing from that glory is a Pakistan-India game. I think that's where they kind of dropped the ball. And they try to make it happen in the Super 8s, but now they know better to not separate the two. Every single tournament after 2011, I think they've been in the same group. Every single tournament. And it's a moneymaker. Why not?
Also, Australia didn't make it past the first round, which sometimes we forget to look back on. I think they were still trying to figure out their whole T20 setup. But ultimately, in the final, I remember actually the semifinal. It was the first time we saw Yunus Khan promote Afridi to bat up the order, and he scored a 50. I remember he scored like 5 boundaries of Johan Bottas over, off the offside, cut shot, over the covers, just really demolishing Botha.
Peak Shahid Afridi. Like that's what I mean when I say that this is the guy who was the answer.
And plus in his bowling, he got Herschel Gibbs. Was 09 Herschel Gibbs was one of the best.
Yeah.
And also AB de Villiers. So those are like one of the greatest white ball batsmen from South Africa. So for Afridi to be just rolling through them, peak Afridi.
Peak Afridi, man. That's, again, solidified him as a superstar and the world never looked back. The greatest of all time for me when it comes to T20s was Shahid Afridi, 100%.
The final of that World Cup, I remember we went back to our puppy's house. We had a whole watch party with all of our cousins. That's one of my highlights. And for Pakistan to have the start that they did, Abdul Razak gave Pakistan early breakthroughs. He got...
You're forgetting Mohammad Amir's maiden wicket.
His first... The first over.
Insane.
One of the greatest first overs I've seen in an ICC final. For a 17-year-old to be bowling to Dilshan, who was the highest run scorer and eventually the player of the tournament of that World Cup. It was a clear plan. Ball short stuff, cutters, quick bouncers, and eventually Dilshan went for his go-to shot, which was kind of like the Dil scoop, but like not as fine as you typically plays it.
I think that's horrible branding for that shot, by the way. The Dil scoop, it never caught on. It was like it's a scoop. The Dilshan scoop, people would say, but the Dil scoop, that was not a thing. Ever. Sorry.
And it was caught by Shahzeb Hassan, the legend. Maybe the greatest thing he's done is in his career was take that catch.
Shahzeb Hassan, bro. There was a time where we believed he was also the answer, but not the answer. No. The wrong question, maybe.
And that was when we realized like Mohammad Amir is the real deal.
Yeah.
Like this kid has a potential. People are talking about him. They're saying he's the next Wasim Akram. Some are saying he was like Wasim Akram was never this good at his age as what Amir currently was at the time.
One of the things that I sort of lament over is the fact that Shoaib Akhtar never got to play a T20 World Cup.
That's true because, one of the highlights of the last World Cup was that Shoaib Akhtar had hit Mohammad Asif with a bat. I think there was a fight between Afridi and Shoaib Akhtar, and Mohammad Asif was laughing, and eventually Shoaib Akhtar was coming off of a training session, just bowling at high pace, and just threw a bat at Mohammad Asif. Could have injured him, could have killed him. Some say
could have killed him. Calm down.
Some say that would have been more beneficial for the Pakistan team.
Nobody
in the long run.
Nobody's killing anybody with a bat.
Shoaib Akhtar looks back and says that I hit him with one bat. I should have hit him twice.
That's such a Shoaib Akhtar answer. Yeah, but it makes me sad, man. Like, Shoaib Akhtar, was he in the 2007 ODI World Cup?
No. Again, injured.
He only played the 99 World Cup, 2003 World Cup, and then straight to
2011.
That's like only 3 World Cups for him. All 3 horrific, honestly. 2011 was the last time that Pakistan went to a semifinal, but that semifinal is nothing to talk about.
I mean, given Shoaib Akhtar's fitness and his run-ins with the PCB, I've read his book right here. and he talks about that in detail. So I think looking back for the amount of cricket that Shoaib Akhtar has played is itself a testament to how mentally tough he was throughout his career.
The next World Cup was in 2010, the last time the West Indies hosted a World Cup. And since then, it's been about 14 years since they've hosted another ICC event. Wonder what happened there. Big three. Well, yeah, last time West Indies hosted a World Cup, historically, Pakistan has been really bad in West Indies. And Pakistan were trying to go back-to-back in this one, defending their title. The format was the same as the last two editions, which I think was actually a very beneficial way to keep the T20 World Cups interesting.
Another World Cup where India and Pakistan did not face each other. And Pakistan, they just won 2 of the 5 matches in their group stage, and they qualified. Like they qualified barely to the semifinals based off of their net run rate. I think looking back, we think Pakistan had a good World Cup that World Cup, but it wasn't as good as we remember. But in the semifinals against Australia, we were in the game for 95% of the match. We batted well, we put runs on the board, and it was just that last over by Ajmal against Mike Hussey that ruined Pakistan's chances. Now, important thing to notice here is that Yunus Khan retired from T20s after the 2009 World Cup, and then Shahid Afridi took the captaincy. And I think he was trying to use Saeed Ajmal as to how Wasim Akram used to use Saqlain Mushtaq back in the 90s, right? Which is to use him as a death over bowler. And before that match was working. It was a tried and tested formula, and just Mike Hussey showed up.
I think there was also, because T20 was so new, the team did not know how to use certain players in certain instances. For example, Salman Butt was still opening for Pakistan in 2010 in a T20 match. And that's crazy to me because Pakistan, I mean, the world didn't really know that there need to be differences between who the T20 openers or T20 players are going to be, ODI players are going to be, and Test players are going to be.
Salman Butt was the 3rd highest run scorer.
Again, like time tells us that run scoring has not been the right metric of success for a batsman.
Rankings are?
No, neither are
average.
Rankings. It's the strike rate, obviously.
Oh, okay.
And Salman Butt is never on any list for Pakistan's high strike rates. And it just goes to show that like we really hadn't figured it out yet of what needed to happen. And obviously, as the sport grows and as the format keeps getting played over and over again, it'll get redefined once again. Like this IPL, the 2024 IPL, is insane. Like the average score is like 210 per innings, and maybe that's the way it goes forward. But at that time, in that moment, it was still like, yeah, we're gonna keep the same ODI squad, maybe refine it a little bit, but not really have particular T20 set bowlers or batsmen. And I think that's interesting.
This was also the first World Cup where Pakistan was without Umar Gul. Umar Gul, who was the highest wicket taker of the last 2 World Cups and played an instrumental role in being a death over bowler for Pakistan. I think Umar Gul is up there with the likes of Malinga and Bumrah with being one of the best T20 death over bowlers. Like the way he could have gotten to reverse swing the ball. And I personally believe that Umar Gul, he reinvented the Yorker for Pakistan. Since Waqar Yunus, Shoaib Akhtar, Wasim Akram retired, he was the one that sort of brought it back and made it a more popular thing in Pakistan cricket.
Yeah, man, his reverse swing Yorkers were just unplayable and honestly a sight to see. I miss them. And Pakistan would do good for someone like that. I think Wasim Jr. sort of has that Umar Gul variety where his Yorkers are lethal as well when he gets them right. But again, so yeah, 2010 World Cup. Who won that?
Australia faced England in the final. Again, a treat for the ICC. Two of the biggest rivals going into the finals. And it's so sad because Australia beat us only to lose against England in the final. Like, bro, you should have let us gone through and we could have given a better shot at the World Cup.
And it didn't even challenge England properly. 147 runs in the final. They chased it in 17. Craig Keyswetter, remember him?
Yeah, good keeper.
63. He scored off 49 and he player of the match as well. It was one of those things where I was like, if you're going to go and do that, then let's, Pakistan probably would have steamrolled that England team. But,
Kevin Peterson was the player of the series, and that was sort of the first tournament we saw him, and the world recognized that this guy is a good T20 impactful batsman. And ever since then, he was like a favorite of all the leagues in the world that happened since.
Yeah, and his attitude in the game of cricket is also commendable. I love the way he thinks about the game. It's just that aggression mindset. He has actually a really fun viral clip. I urge everybody to check it out. He was on the Graham Norton show, and on the couch with him, next to him was Taylor Swift. And they were talking about some scandal about some test match. And you could clearly see Taylor Swift's like checked out. And Graham Norton asks her, are you following? And she's like, yeah, something about a chess match. And I'm like, wow, this is like pure cricket. Like it'll go into the museums of cricket, this moment right here. So, Kevin Peterson, KP, the guy.
Imagine explaining cricket to somebody who doesn't know anything about cricket, and you explain to them what test cricket is.
Yeah, it's insane. Like we did a reel for the Blue Jays recently, and this one guy was trying to explain it, and he, in his explanation, got lost about what the game was.
It's a 3-day thing. It's an overball, underball.
Yeah, it's just insane. Fun times, man. Fun times.
2012, we go to Sri Lanka, and same format as the last 3 editions. And it was the first World Cup where we saw spin play a huge role. And it was the first World Cup where Ajanta Mendes, the famous finger spinner from Sri Lanka, made a mark. He had the most wickets, and Shane Watson was the player of the tournament for having the second most wickets and the most runs. So Shane Watson was at peak Shane Watson, taking wickets, scoring runs, and just having that beast mentality that he has.
One thing about Shane Watson, is he the greatest Australian all-rounder of all time, or one of?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Pace bowling all-rounder, likely. I can't think of anybody else who bats as good as him, who bowled as good as him.
Did he open for Australia at one point as well?
He did. He also, like towards the later half of his career, also played as middle order batsman.
A lot going on with him, man. I've never been able to pinpoint exactly where he fits in like the lexicon or the arsenal of the Australian attack. But yeah, interesting player. 2012 World Cup, not really my highlight. Honestly, it becomes a little bit of a blur for me. You take this one away.
I think one of my highlights from a Pakistan point of view was our game against South Africa, where Pakistan was, I think, around like 70 for 7. And Omar Gul walks in and just plays one of the most blinder of innings that you will ever see in cricket. He is smashing the likes of Albie Morkel, Mordy Morkel, Dale Steyn. He scores an impactful like 33 and just brings Pakistan back into that match. Towards the end, after he gets out, they need 9 off 6. Omar Gul hits a 6. Omar Akmal hits a 6. Sorry, I got lost in the Umars. And then in the end, Pakistan needs like 2 off 3 balls, and Syed Ajmal edges it towards thirds man, and Pakistan wins that match. It was also the first World Cup since 2007 where Pakistan faced India, and we got to see the brilliance of Virat Kohli. A new and improved Virat Kohli, and a Virat Kohli who would go on to play much more match-winning innings for India against Pakistan. He loves playing against Pakistan. In that match particularly, he scored 78 off 61 balls. And if you forgot, he also took a wicket off 21 balls. I want to see who got out. He got Mohammad Hafiz bowled.
Brilliant. Who would have thought part-timer Mohammad Hafiz? That doesn't add up at all.
Virat Kohli bowled 3 overs, 1 wicket for 21 runs.
I think this was the World Cup where Virat Kohli sort of, he had already announced himself in international cricket, but he was starting to get those accolades now. Like he had the most runs this World Cup. He's 319 at an average of 106, strike rate of almost 130. Like he was just on freaking fire, man. And this is where the legacy of the World Cups start cementing itself, especially against Pakistan, against Virat Kohli. Pakistan has always been like, here you go, sir. Here, the king. Here's your crown. You dropped it. And this is the first of many defeats of that nature. The one thing that I will say that after this World Cup, I mean, the 2011 World Cup wasn't really tight, but after the 2007 final that Pakistan-India played, every single Pakistan-India encounter at a World Cup has been one-sided. And it's been usually the side of India, and it's not been fun, if I'm being honest. You can't look back and be like, oh, that moment was insane. Until, again, sort of pushing myself to the edge here and forward-looking, until the 2022 T20 World Cup, which, arguably has one of the best T20 matches of all time ever played. But yeah, like again, nothing to say about here. 130 off 20 overs. I hate the Pakistan team so much because even at that moment, I was like, we might be able to defend this, but it wasn't happening.
Pakistan barely made it to the semis. They were just above India in terms of net run rate. And there was a moment I remember, I think India was facing South Africa. India beat South Africa, but they had to beat South Africa by a big margin for them to qualify ahead of Pakistan for the semis.
You keep saying South Africa, but South Africa was not in our group.
It was. I think you're looking at a different World Cup, man.
I think I'm looking at 20. What am I looking at?
2012.
Oh, my bad.
Virat Kohli was not the highest run scorer. It was Shane Watson.
My bad.
I think you're getting, again, a bit ahead of
2014.
yourself.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong stats, but similar vibes.
There was a moment in the match where I think India was bowling and there's Virat Kohli, and behind him it says India win the match, but Pakistan qualify for the semi-final. And I remember that picture went viral on all the Pakistan Facebook meme pages at the time. Pakistan goes to the semis. They were unable to chase 139 against Sri Lanka. They were 16 runs short. And I just watched the highlights of that match yesterday, and I could not believe how Pakistan bottled that chase. Pretty straightforward, less than 7 and over. And Pakistan was having a pretty huge batting lineup. Imran Nazir is there. Nasir Jamshed was playing. Mohammad Hafiz was captain. Kamran Akmal, Shoaib Malik, Umar Akmal, Shahid Afridi, Suhail Tanvir, and we were not able to chase down 140.
Another Shahid Afridi golden duck in a very important match. Like, what do you say about that? Like, again, love the man. Give yourself some time on the crease. Like, what are you doing?
Just decided that he's a bowling all-rounder?
That was that moment. You're right. So that was that moment where he was like, you know what? I'm not really much of a batsman. I'm more of a bowler. So, but why would you still golden ball? Like, I don't even know. Like, this is like my frustration with him. And this is the push and pull love story, the toxic love story that Shahid Afridi fans have with him is like, we know you could do it. We know you can. We've seen you do it before. Just take your time, man. And
somehow, since the 2010 World Cup, Mohammad Hafiz became captain of this World Cup. And just again, from an Indian point of view, this was the third World Cup in a row since they won, since the IPL happened, where India was knocked out in the first round. They couldn't even make top 4.
But I think Pakistan kind of blew up the entire system after the 2011 semi-final loss in the ODI World Cup, where Shahid Afridi gets stripped of not only the captaincy of the ODI World Cup, which goes to Misbah, the T20 goes to 2012's, T20, 2012's captaincy goes to Mohammad Hafiz. And that was just like Shahid Afridi not being able to retain it. And now, I was too young to truly understand what the politics was of the captaincy and how it gets transferred from one person to the other. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if something of that nature happened. Also, wasn't Shahid Afridi at complete odds with the PCB chairman at the time, Jaz Butt, I believe. And so, when you look back in history, it's a no-brainer that Shahid Afridi wasn't captaining it.
That whole 5-year period between 2010 to 15, Afridi and Misbah were just playing like musical chairs for the captaincy for white ball cricket, at least. So, yeah, just typical Pakistan cricket instability, uncertainty. But my highlight from that World Cup is when West Indies beat Sri Lanka. Now, Sri Lanka, again, was not able to chase 138 in the final. Would have been fitting for Mahela and Sangha to finally win their first ICC trophy in Sri Lanka at their home turf. But West Indies came through. The first World Cup they won.
Is that the World Cup of the Darren? The
Gangnam Style.
Was that the Gangnam Style?
Yeah, it was when the Gangnam Style was the most viewed video on YouTube. And that dance was going viral all over the internet.
Oh, I remember now.
And this is the game where, West Indies won the match. And the whole team did the Gangnam Style. And it further made that whole thing go even more viral.
Looking at this West Indies team, all stars through and through. Chris Gayle, Marlon Samuels, Dwayne Bravo, Karen Pollard, peak of his powers, Andre Russell, peak of his powers, Jaren Sami, Dinesh Ramdin, Sunil Narayan, Ravi Rampal was Samuel, but like all-time team, all-time West Indies T20 team. A lot of these players, again, go into that, and no-brainer that they won, but it's always fun to see West Indies win this stuff, just because they're such like an island country, and we always rate them out. There's so much behind the scenes politics that goes on in their system as well. The fact that they produced this win and then another one in the future, I'm happy for them.
2014, we go to Bangladesh, and the format changes here a bit. There's 16 teams, and then the top 10 go for a Super 10. And ICC, being smart, put India and Pakistan on the same stage. This is the World Cup where Ahmed Shehzad scored a century against Bangladesh, and he became the first Pakistani batsman to score 100 in all three formats. Now,
Yikes. Throw up.
it was a decent World Cup because we beat Bangladesh. We also beat an informed Australian side. And I remember, I think Umar Akmal scored 90 odd in that match. So our Pakistan team was looking in good hands up until we faced India, and then that horrible match against West Indies. Pakistan had the game under control for the first 15 overs of the first innings against West Indies. And then Dwayne Bravo and Darren Sammy cumulatively scored 88 off 46 balls. And that just took the game away from us. And then there was a pretty decent opening spell from this guy called Santoki. Krishmar Santoki.
I feel like he's implanting memories in my head that I don't even remember I have. Please continue.
And then Samuel Badri had a good spell. Pakistan was like 40 for 4, maybe even less than that. And we weren't able to chase that score. Pakistan gets blown out, lose to India, lose to West Indies, out of the World Cup. They come back. Mohammad Hafiz resigns because this man actually has some
Integrity.
sort of... Sorry?
Integrity.
And he says, I take responsibility. We lost because of me, and I am going to step down from the captaincy. And then it goes to Shahid Afridi back.
A criminal 19 ball 32, a 32 ball 19 from Mohammad Hafiz in that game against West Indies, where Pakistan was not able to chase 167. It's absolute carnage. Santoki, where you at, bro? Come on the pod. Let's talk about it. No reason for this team to lose. All-time Pakistan team is playing. Sohail Tanvir, Shahid Afridi is there. Umar Akmal. This is the time where Kamran Akmal had become the Pakistan national team opener. Tough days for us. But, he had a moment where he was actually striking the ball really well, especially against Australia. And just dark days were beginning to happen. You could see the clouds coming in for Pakistan cricket.
Umar Gul was back from his injury, and just like to be transparent, I just don't think he was the same baller since he came back from I think he had ankle issues or knee issues.
He went for 29 runs in those 2 overs that he bowled in that match.
Yeah, so exactly, like he was never the same bowler again, and Pakistan just, they tried to give him multiple opportunities, but again, he was just never the same bowler since his injuries. So Pakistan lost, but this was the World Cup where Virat Kohli actually came in.
This was the World Cup where I was...
actually announced himself.
Yes,
on the
sorry.
stage.
So again, if people are offended from the previous 10 minutes, I apologize. They're looking at the wrong stat board. But yes, this is the World Cup where Virat Kohli comes in and says, this is my game. And his rise starts from, 2014 to 2019-20? That's 5 to 6 year period.
I mean, till today.
I mean, the peak I'm talking about, where the naysayers, there were no critics, there were only fans.
Peak only was 16, 17, 18,
19. Yes.
That was like...
But this is where the ascent starts.
That
this
was
is where
like
the curve goes
Jordan,
up.
96, 97.
Yeah, 98. Yep. I would agree with that. Definitely. And yeah, even though he goes on and he's still he was the highest T20, he was the highest run scorer of this World Cup, the 2023 one that just passed. Man, this Kohli was different. He was probably single at the time. Aggression, just pure fire, needed a place to get it out. And the popping crease was where Virat Kohli cemented his place as the king. And nobody can take that away from him.
Hello, cricket and baseball fans. The Toronto Blue Jays are hosting Cricket Night at the Park, presented by TD this Friday, May 10th. You get to experience cricket with the Blue Jays at the Dodger Center and get a chance to win a white Blue Jays cricket hat. T20 World Cup champion Carlos Brathwaite, remember the name is going to be there alongside the Canadian cricket team and many more exciting guests. And yes, the T20 World Cup trophy itself will be unveiled at the event. There's going to be many cricket-related activities such as batting cages, photo ops. So make sure you bring out your friends and family. Don't miss out on this wonderful night. Tickets can be found at bluejays.com/cricket. We hope to see you guys there. And it seemed like India finally got the combination right. They had Rohit Sharma playing, Ajinkya Rahane, who was sort of the anchor up top, and Virat Kohli. Yuvraj Singh was back from his cancer treatment, MS Dhoni was there, Suresh Raina, the finisher, Ravi Ashwin, Jadeja, Amit Mishra, uh, Bhuvneshwar Kumar playing his first World Cup, Mohit Sharma. And they were just up against Malinga towards the end. And one of the things that stand out about that final is Yuvraj Singh's 21 ball 11, which made him one of the most hated men in all of India because of that innings. I felt bad for him. It seemed like he was trying his best to hit out of the park, but he was missing full tosses. Even the ball he got out was a full toss. So he struggled, plus MS Dhoni struggled. Like MS scored 4 off 7. So if you combine Yuvraj and Dhoni's numbers, they scored 15 off 28 balls together in the final of a World Cup.
Criminal. Totally criminal. And I remember I was watching a podcast with UV. I think it was on the Ranveer Singh show. Ranveer Singh? Is that his name? His show.
Beer Biceps.
Beer Biceps. There we go. He follows us. Shout out to Beer Biceps. Love you guys. And he was like, I don't understand the hate. Like I was at one moment the most loved cricketer, especially 2011 World Cup, man. That was all him. And from going there to like in a couple of years just to being that guy, I mean, that must have taken a toll. And India, like, you think we get hate, but when the Indians come in, their vitriol is like a next level. And I feel it for him. I think that was tough. That was a tough beat for India. And you will see this narrative being repeated multiple times now, because 2013 was the last time that India won an ICC trophy. And after this narrative of India making it to the finals, making it to the playoffs, will come back again and again and again. And I'm just happy for my boy Sangakkara. I think Kumar Sangakkara is one of the most stylish players that the game has ever seen. And I feel bad for that era of the Sri Lankan team with the Malingas, the Murlis, the Sangas, the Jayavardhanes, Dilshan. Like, that team is just like one of the greatest teams that Sri Lanka had ever produced. And they came so close so many times. 2011 World Cup,
the final,
2007 World Cup, 2012 World Cup, and then this one. And I think I'm just happy that they got their flowers because they deserved it. Especially, I remember I was a little bit of a tangent, but when Sangha and Jayavardhan retired, it was the same test match. It was very similar to the Miss You era. Where they retired together as well. And I was just like choked up, man. And honestly, since their retirement, they really haven't really found a footing properly. And they were holding this team on the backbones for a long time because I'm pretty sure their back hurt. And it was time to let them go. I think I still watch Kumar Sangakkara's innings from time to time. And he's one of my favorite keepers of all time, one of my favorite left-handed batsmen of all time. And his cover drive, people keep calling out Babar Azam and people keep calling out Virat Kohli and Joe Root for having some of the best cover drives of all time. Nothing beats Sangakkara's cover drive. It felt like it was a mirrored emotion of what you were feeling. And as soon as the ball hit the middle of the bat, you knew it was racing to the boundaries. And I think my personal opinion is watching cricket in England is probably the best way to watch it. And watching any test match that Sri Lanka was playing against England at home, and you would just see that cover drive come in, and it just gives me goosebumps still. And Sangha, I love you. Come on the pod if you ever want to, but this was the tournament that I think they deserve to win, and I'm glad that they did.
Well said. Going to 2016, the World Cup goes to India, and the format is again a Super 10, Pakistan, India. At this point, ICC just knows.
At this point, this is also the first time that India is hosting this World Cup.
Yes, the first time a T20 World Cup is being hosted by India. Pakistan is put in the same group as India. They face off.
They're smart now, right? Marketing team finally clicked in.
They face off in Kolkata. They make the whole match a celebration. They call in Imran Khan as a special guest. There's Sunil Gavaskar. There's Sachin there. I remember Wasim Akram was there for commentary. Waqar Yunus was Pakistan's coach. So arguably, three of Pakistan's greatest fast bowlers of all time, one of our greatest captains, was in that ground. So wonderful celebration of the game, connecting the two countries together. But just a horrible game for Pakistan. We completely misread the pitch. We played one less spinner. Imad Wasim was on the bench, whereas MS Dhoni was getting overs out of Suresh Raina and they had Jadeja playing as well. So again, another exhibition by Virat Kohli and showing why he is the best of the best, showing up in one of the most pressure matches in world cricket, scoring a 50 while Sachin is in the crowd, and then tapping it, showing his bat once he gets to a 50 um, to Sachin. But one of the craziest moments of that match was when Mohammad Sami, not Mohammad Shami, Mohammad Sami of all players, gets 2 wickets in 2 balls. Me and you were watching that match at Ryerson University with Indians and Pakistani students, and just the silence of the crowd when India had lost Shikhar Dhawan and Suresh Raina in back-to-back deliveries. It felt like we might have some chance.
I just think that was such a missed opportunity for that Pakistan team. Again, that was a Pakistan team that was in the middle of a rebuild. Like, it was the end of Shahid Afridi. It was the end of a lot of these big players that would see the sunset over their careers after that tournament. I just think a few more runs, man, and you could have probably come back with a win. Imran Khan is in the stadium. Everybody, you have legacy players, legends out there, royalty, cricket royalty, sitting in the stands watching you, and you bottled it so bad. And again, this becomes the sort of thesis of the Pakistan cricket team for the next few years after that. Like, this is the inception of just a horrible, horrible run that Pakistan goes on. And this, I guess it starts from here. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet is this is the tournament that put Afghanistan on the map. Afghanistan came in for the qualifiers. They won all 3 games, and then that was the team that people were very excited about. They won 1 game in the Group 1 stages where they played, but this is where...
Didn't they beat West Indies?
I think they beat the West Indies, yes. And this is where you got the likes of Nabi coming in, you get the likes of Rashid Khan coming in, you get those people start becoming household names. They're getting picked at these big, big leagues. They're playing for the PSL, they're playing for the IPL now. And you're like, okay, so maybe the Afghanistan team, maybe a bit premature for Test cricket, maybe a bit premature for ODI cricket, but this format suits them so well that on their day they can beat anybody.
The highlight of this World Cup, and I think this might be my favorite World Cup of all the World Cups, was the song that DJ Bravo made
This
before
is the
World Cup
champion
happened. Champion
World Cup.
song.
Yep.
It went viral before the World Cup happened. And just to top it all off, West Indies goes through, and against all odds, even against their own cricket board, they go on to win the World Cup. And when World Cups happen back in those days, the West Indies team was like, Darren Sammy was the Samuel L. Jackson, and he just brings in all the Avengers together. Chris Gill comes back. They had Andre Russell, Johnson Charles. They had Samuel Badri playing. Just an all-round great Dwayne Bravo West Indies team.
I think the greatest playoff run, in my opinion, was this West Indies team with the 2016 World Cup. And the way they beat India, the way they beat England, I mean, iconic. And I think that also sort of put my boy, who was the commentator in the final again?
Ian Bishop.
Ian Bishop on the map. Ian Bishop became, in my opinion, the greatest commentator after that. Ian Smith is still a close second after the 2019 World Cup.
Nasir Hussain?
Nasir Hussain is just like Nasir Hussain,
Bumble.
Those guys are just great. Solid commentators. Whenever you go to these people, they're great. But man, when you talk about a league of their own, Ian Bishop is there, Ian Smith is there, and I think this is where it put him on the map with the whole remember the name thing. Carlos Brathwaite, the pinnacle of his career. I don't think he has ever gone back to that to the heights of that moment. But just looking at what West Indies was able to do with the odds that they were presented, beating an informed India in India, insane, and then going on and beating England, who, Ben Stokes, we look at him in a very different light now because we have the axis of history with us. But there was 2 ways that Ben Stokes could have flipped his career. Either he would have been one of those people that got hit for 4 sixes in the final over, or he would have been Ben freaking Stokes that he is now. And it just shows the character of who that person was, that he didn't let a moment like that go down. But when it comes down to just the pure energy and joy that the West Indian team brings, this is the pinnacle of that.
Well said. I think...
What can I do, man? All I do is talk.
I think that World Cup was important for West Indies cricket because that was their third ICC trophy that year. They had won the Under-19 World Cup. Their women's team had won a World Cup, and then West Indies men's team they go on to win a World Cup. So I think it was after a very long time we saw West Indies cricket peak, and we acknowledged that the West Indies team could be a dangerous team. They're almost like a Pakistan team where you never really know which West Indies team can show up with their mercurial side.
The semifinal, Virat Kohli plays one of the most outstanding innings. I think his second best T20 innings.
I would disagree. The second best T20 innings is the innings he played against Australia in that same World Cup, where he scored 82 and single-handedly chased the match for India, 82 off 51 balls against a bowling attack that had Josh Hazlewood, Nathan Coulter-Nile, Shane Watson, Glenn Maxwell, Adam Zampa, and he is Virat Kohli, the chase master.
That's where he got the name.
And then he topped that innings with the innings against Pakistan in the last T20 World Cup.
Yeah, again, we're rushing to the recent matches, but fine. The third best innings, I think, because he comes in, he wants to make sure that India has a score that is that totally just demoralizes the opponents, and he did that with 89 of 47, 190 strike rate, this 11 fours, 1-6, completely takes the game to the one side. And then you have to realize the West Indies were 19 for 2 in 3 overs.
The game, the point where India lost the match was the 2 no balls. It was one from Ashwin. It was, I think, Lendl Simmons was caught, and then it became a no ball, so it was a free hit, which goes for 6. And then even Jasprit Bumrah or some other bowler bowled a no ball. And those 2 no balls were one of the game-changing moments of that World Cup.
Lendl Simmons hits 82 off 51, 160 strike rate. Andre Russell, the greatest, hits 43 off 20 with 4 sixes and 3 fours. We actually we met Andre Russell in the GT20 last year, and we asked him a question in the presser, which was, are you looking forward to playing for West Indies? And he was so open to it. And he actually single-handedly turned the game around for the Montreal Tigers last year at the GT20 as well. So we've seen Andre Russell do this IRL. This was just, his history talking to himself.
Let's go to the World Cup in the UAE, the COVID World Cup.
Oh, man. So wait, 2016 was the last time we had the T20 World Cup. And then no World Cup at the 18. No 2018 World Cup. 17 was the Champions Trophy. So 18, there was no ICC event. 19 was the ODI World Cup. And then 2020 was supposed to be the T20 World Cup again.
In Australia. But because of COVID, it got pushed back to the next year, and it also got removed to the UAE because of the COVID bubbles and all the restrictions, it was a lot easier to manage the World Cup happening in the UAE. Three grounds, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai ground. So for the ICC, it became a bit easier to manage it.
A lot has happened in between, though.
Exactly.
From 2016 to 2021. We saw, in terms of Pakistan cricket team, we saw the rise of Sarfraz and then the fall of Sarfraz between that time. The rise of Sarfraz comes in 2017 when he wins the Champions Trophy, beating India. Again, people say there's not a single podcast we do without talking about that. And you know what? We won't. We will keep talking about that because why not? Champions Trophy 2017, rise of Sarfraz, and then Sarfraz is sort of on a high from 17, 18, 19. One of the most successful T20 captains for Pakistan of all time. Right before the 2020 World Cup, COVID happens. Pakistan is not able to go. We see the downfall of Sarfraz. And by the time the next T20 World Cup comes in, Sarfraz is no longer in the team.
He's in the reserves.
He's bringing out water bottles. And I think we've hinted on this topic a little bit. And maybe, again, this is not the place to completely go deep dive into this, but it is the most unfortunate thing for Pakistan cricket that Sarfraz Ahmed was never able to lead Pakistan into a T20 World Cup. A lot of that goes to just timing. Some of that goes to Sarfraz's own performance. None of that goes to his ability to lead the Pakistan team ever. I think he was one of the great Pakistan captains that history will look fondly upon. Just goes to show that, one day you might be the top, next day you might not be. But when it comes down to the 2021 World Cup, probably the best World Cup Pakistan has ever had. Ever. Undefeated World Cup for Pakistan cricket team. Break a lot of shackles, break a lot of stereotypes, break a lot of norms, defeat India in one of the greatest T20 matches for a Pakistan team ever. Man, I don't know, it seemed like yesterday I was streaming that game. on this channel.
We have that game streamed live, and it's on our Patreon. If you want to experience us and watch our raw emotions, we were debating whether to do it or not, but ultimately glad it happened. And finally, Pakistan breaks the streak of beating India at a World Cup. And what a way to do it. They won by 10 wickets. We cannot forget that spell by Shaheen Afridi. That was peak Shaheen Afridi. That delivery to Rohit Sharma, plus that delivery to KL Rahul. No ball in the whole IPL that happened in the UAE had swung or seemed that much. So truly a special performance, and then topped it off with Rizwan Babar chasing 152. That's sort of a score that suits them to score. And it was almost like India was never ever in the match. Maybe the only point they were in the match was when there was an overthrow. It goes for a boundary. Camera turns to Akshay Kumar. He's smiling. He's rejoicing. And then we never see him again.
Man, that moment of Akshay Kumar just being like, I don't even want to know. Just because there's a lot of baggage with Akshay Kumar. His political leanings, I don't agree with. His movies, I'm not really in tandem with. And then just him being there and his reaction. And then Pakistan had the last laugh in that World Cup. And just being, I think, honestly, if I'm being honest, India underestimated Pakistan so badly in both times that Pakistan have come out with a victory. This World Cup, the one that we're talking about, and the 2017 Champions Trophy final, both India underestimated Pakistan so badly. Pakistan came up with spectacular wins on both sides. Both of these games are completely one-sided. And that's what I say, that a lot of these Pakistan-India games were so one-sided, they're not fun to rewatch. Maybe for the Indian fans when India wins, and maybe for the Pakistani fans when Pakistan wins. But in general, if you look back, they're just like one-sided affairs, and it's not that fun to absorb that. But again, as a Pakistan cricket fan, this is one of the highlights of my life. Like the 152 for 0. This is the World Cup that cemented Babar Azam as the guy that maybe sort of kind of little bit challenge Virat Kohli's crown a little bit if you want. You know, I hope I'm not being blasphemous or anything. But he scored the highest runs. He scored 303 runs in this World Cup in 6 innings with an average of 60, strike rate of 127. Like it was just one of those things where he was just on fire. And this was a World Cup that put even him and Rizwan as the Rizbar partnership up there. And, you know, we talk about the struggles of Rizbar now, but in a moment in 2021, they pulled Pakistan out of the darkness when Pakistan needed them. And you have to commend that.
Also in that World Cup, the game against New Zealand was amazing because we had Haris Rove, who was a tape ball player, came out of nowhere, comes in, takes wickets, becomes man of the match, gives a shout out to the Lahore Qalandars. And we then also have somebody like an Asif Ali who scores those magnificent sixes against Afghanistan, just makes it so much iconic. And another World Cup where India fails to go through for semis. It's the last World Cup where Virat Kohli captains India. I think he meant to step down as the white ball captain, but eventually all 3 format captaincy was taken from Virat Kohli. Pakistan goes to the semis, and we have a Pakistan team who has underscored against Australia. One of the things I dislike about the World Cup that happened in the UAE was that it became a bit one-dimensional in the sense where if you're chasing, it becomes so much easier because there's a do factor, and I think 90% of teams just win while you're chasing. So Pakistan batting first, they had underscored. It was thanks to Fakhar Zaman's brilliance in the bat towards the back end of the innings where he scored a 50. Pakistan gets to 176, I believe.
I still sometimes go back and watch the highlights of Fakhar.
I can't.
No, there's Fakhar just demolishing Stark.
Oh, yeah.
That I still watch, and I'm like, he made the Dubai Stadium seem like it was gully cricket, man. Like, it was insane. I want that Fakhar back.
And then we had one of the most iconic first overs by Shaheen Afridi. He gets Aaron Finch out. He bowls some unplayable deliveries to
155 he clocked in?
No.
154?
He was clocking in the high 140s.
No, he clocked 115. I think 152. I'm very sure. I'll fact check you right now.
I think the ball he got out, Aaron Finch, was 148. But the only ball he bowled over 150 was against Afghanistan. It was 151 case.
Was it one? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting it then. But
Shaheen doesn't clock 150 too often. He was
but
always
again,
in the high
that World
140s.
Cup was different. That was a different Shaheen, man.
He had that snap.
He had the snap, man. His action. when we talk about that, he had the snap in his action where it was just like like it was so free flowing. It was like it was in a routine. It was almost
It
synonymous
was
to a
like
song.
Mohamed Amir who?
Cool. Like we've totally forgot. Mohamed Amir thought he did something with his retirement, but then Shaheen came in and was like, not really.
And then Shadab Khan also, it was his first T20 World Cup, and he was sort of a T20 Globetrotter since then. And he had a great impact, took 4 wickets in the final. And wickets,
on our podcast with him, he said that he's kind of sad about that performance because people forget that he took 4 wickets.
Look who he got out. He got Warner out. He got Mitch Marsh out. He got Steve Smith out. He got Glenn Maxwell out. So huge wickets. Pakistan, I think, was in the game up until that over happened from Mohammad Hafiz. The pressure sort of went back to Pakistan.
Hafiz bowls 1 over, gives 13.
And I think before that, he's never bowled a no ball. And this time he balls a no ball, and it's not even like a front foot no ball. It's a ball that goes off the pitch. So ever since he remodeled his action, he was never able to ball as consistently as he did before remodeling his action.
Matthew Wade 41 off 17 in that match.
Mike Hussey 2.0.
We can't.
For the kids that missed the 2010 World Cup, this was for you guys to experience. But for those who experienced both, I truly empathize and feel for your emotions. It felt like a World Cup was being handed to Pakistan in a platter. Here you go, Babar. Win it, take it home, have fun, enjoy. But Matthew Wade had other plans.
How does this impact Babar's legacy? If you think Pakistan had won this World Cup, we would have been talking about a different Babar Azam.
I think that World Cup, we saw a leader in Babar Azam. We saw a lot of behind the scenes chats from the dressing room, and Babar was really backing all the boys, giving them confidence. And the one thing I loved about Babar's captaincy in that whole era was that it seemed like Pakistan team was playing as a unit. There was a lot of teamwork. Didn't seem like there was a lot of politics or grouping in the Pakistan team, which is typically associated in the Pakistan dressing room setup. So kudos to Babar for leading the team to that. And it was also an end of an era with respect to the last games that Mohammad Hafiz and Shoaib Malik had played for Pakistan. Pakistan then brought in the likes of Khuizul Shah and Iftikhar Ahmed and other players, Haider Ali. We had Azam Khan playing in the middle order. So a different change in mindset. Imad Wasim was dropped. Mohammad Nawaz came in. But that World Cup, Australia go on to beat New Zealand in the final, which is the beginning of Pat Cummins's supremacy. It was like, he's like that guy who's out there to get you, and he's just ticking off the boxes. He goes to win that World Cup. Then the next year in 2023, he wins the World Test Championship, and then the big prize, the ODI World Cup. So, actually, was Pat Cummins the captain, or was it Aaron Finch?
Aaron Finch was the captain.
Aaron Finch, but Pat Cummins was in the team.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was the according to every single player that we've interviewed for the Islamabad setup and otherwise, they say that 2021 loss in the semifinal was the toughest for them. And yeah, for us as well. I think since that 2007 final, where I first time felt the pangs of defeat within myself, I haven't felt that bad. I mean, the 2010 semifinal loss, I felt really bad. But that 2021 World Cup, man, people talk about it so fondly still to this day that, yeah.
I heard players cried.
Yeah.
Like they bawled their eyes out in the dressing room. And I can only imagine.
That was the best T20 team that Pakistan has produced. Talking about start from 1 to 11, complete T20 team.
Plus, it was our conditions.
Pakistan plays in the UAE all the time. It was just like a handmade, tailor-made system for Babar Azam to secure that. And you cannot even fault Babar for that. Like there was no fault of his at all. There was just Matthew Wade, man. He just came out and did that. We're forgetting Hassan Ali's drop catch. We haven't mentioned it yet. But that was also a big factor of why I'd never rewatched that.
Hassan Ali had a horrible tournament.
Yeah.
Like he was giving out runs. He bowled lots of no balls. It just seemed like he was never there. And Babar was very adamant of continuing to back Hassan Ali. And I just think a combination of all of those things had resulted in that drop catch. In the podcast, the famous podcast where he said Bobby's the king, he mentioned that I think he was sweating or the lights were in his eyes. He missed it. The ball came blurry to him.
I just think he didn't have the eyes on the ball. Because if you look at the freeze frame of him, this moment he's dropping the ball, his head still looking at the sky, and
he was in movement.
In movement,
It was
as
a
well.
running catch.
Yeah, tough one. Australia goes on to win that one, and then there's that supremacy starts, which I'm not even gonna go on about because that just hurts my soul. Moving on to the most recent T20 World Cup, where we've sort of been leading up to this anyways. We've talked about a few different games. This World Cup was held in Australia, which I think is the second most beautiful place to play cricket. If you want to like that experience, it's number one is England and the number two is Australia. I love whenever anybody plays cricket there. I just love watching that, especially the Ashes. That's why it's one of those things that I love to tune into. The whole Cricket World Cup under lights in Australia. Give it to me. Inject it in my soul.
There were two groups of 6, and again, Pakistan and India were put in the same group.
Smart.
When they announced the fixture in MCG, I could not wait for it to happen. There was a lot of build up towards that match. The weather seemed like it was going to get into the way, but luckily we got a match. The Pakistan team goes there. We score 160. Golden duck from Babar Azam.
In hindsight, do you think Pakistan underscored?
I think Pakistan thought this was a 180 sort of a pitch. Both in that match and the final, I think Pakistan thought it was a much more high scoring ground. And all of our players sort of got out, hitting mid wicket, deep square, and just not really understanding the dimensions of that ground. Like it was an 80-meter boundary all throughout the ground. So yeah, just not able to use the conditions properly or reassess the conditions of the pitch and seeing what a par score might be. But I think for Pakistan to get to 160, credits to Iftikhar Ahmed and Shan Masood, and a late cameo by Shaheen Afridi, Pakistan got to 159, which made the score 160 for India. This was the World Cup where Shaheen Afridi was injured back in July of that same year, came back, rushed his comeback, and we saw him sort of jog his way through his run-up and eventually find his mojo towards as the tournament progressed. But we saw Naseem Shah's first World Cup. You got KL Rahul out in the first over that he bowled. And, Haris Rauf came in, gets in Rohit Sharma, gets Surya Kumar Yadav. But that match, that World Cup, it goes back to the brilliance of Virat Kohli, the partnership he had with Hardik Pandya. Once Akshar Patel got run out, him and Pandya just used their brains. They just ticked in the scores, singles, doubles, taking the game as deep as possible to the extent where India required 48 in 3 overs. At that point, I had imagined Pakistan has this game in the bag. Even though Virat Kohli is there, it's just that the ask seems so high. Like, how does he pull it off? You're playing at the MCG. The Pakistan bowlers are bowling really good. We're having a good day. And like in no situation I could simulate in my head could I have imagined for Virat Kohli to snatch that game out of our mouths.
That's, I think, one of the games I wish that we get streamed because I wanted people to see our reaction, how confident we were about the just incredible win that Pakistan was going to go on after this, because Pakistan had, again, just come off a great 2021 World Cup where they demolished completely one-sided India in that chase. And it seemed like Pakistan was going to do it again and maybe put Babar Azam as the best captain to captain against an Indian side. Maybe not. Time would have told us. But yeah, like you cannot fault any single person in that game. That was such an important game for Virat Kohli, such an important game for Team India. They've made at least like a dozen documentaries on that game. Every single T20 promo that I've seen has used that shot against Haris Rauf. Honestly, one of the greatest shots that I've seen anyone play. That moment, the moment, the memory, the importance of it. People are doubting Virat Kohli. Maybe he's just a shadow of what he used to be. People are talking about how he hasn't scored a century in however long time. And there's this Virat Kohli just tuned all of that out. And it seemed like during this chase that he seemed like he had lost his nerve a little bit and that the chase master had maybe gone asleep and it was over for him. There was a lot of critics talking about how slow he was playing in the beginning. And he was just, if we were one step ahead, he was 3 steps ahead. And this goes to show why Virat Kohli is the greatest cricketer of all time. Like, there's no doubt about it. People will bring in eras. People will talk about Sachin. People will talk about Ponting. People will talk about Brian Lara and Viv. But just the impact that this one game had on the psyche of Pakistan, on what the rest of the tournament became. This goes to show that it does only just take one man to sometimes dismantle a dynasty like what Pakistan was trying to create. And man, I just look at this is one game that I do look at often as the inflection point of what Pakistan and Babar Azam's legacy turned out to be. That first run of captaincy, this is where it started going bad, and we started sniffing the paint and started feeling a little anxious about where Babar was leading the team. Because after that, Babar made a few bad mistakes, and then his glaring mistakes started coming up, and we could read between the lines. Nothing away from this match. India really didn't make much of the tournament after this match, but
they got smoked by England in the semifinals by 10 wickets.
Yeah, didn't really. Again, they should have met Pakistan in the final. I think it would have been a good competition then. Maybe Pakistan would have secured the deal, but Virat Kohli, man, this is it. This is his ultimate innings.
And Pakistan. So on top of this, so Mohammad Nawaz was sort of on the sticky end of the stick, where he got smacked for those 16 runs in the final over. And then the next match, Pakistan loses to Zimbabwe, which just makes things from bad to worse. And again, Nawaz was the one playing the last over against Zimbabwe. He gets out. Pakistan need 3 off the last ball, and they somehow lose the match. But I just thought Pakistan's journey from that point to making to the finals, bringing in Mohammad Haris, him playing that blinder of an innings, Iftikhar Ahmed showing up, Shadab Khan showing up as a batsman, bowler. He was one of the contenders of the player of the tournament, that World Cup.
The Dutch showing up. The Dutch showed up for Pakistan, man. They beat South Africa.
I remember that match, and you were like, bro, we have the Dutch could upset. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way, because
we have to talk about that game.
South Africa had beaten India, and I was like, there's no way that they're going to lose to Netherlands. And as the game progressed, I wasn't even watching it, to be honest. I was just I was maybe refreshing Cricket Info to see the score. But I know you were very invested in that match. And ultimately, once the Dutch started taking those catches, it just seemed like there was a 12th man, and that was the Pakistani nation's prayers.
This was the Qudrat Nizam tournament. And let me just give you a little stats on what happened with the Dutch game, because it's very important to the legacy of that Pakistan run. Netherlands scores 158 over with 4 wickets down. Colin Ackerman comes in 41 off 26. And Tom Cooper does 35 off 19, 2 4s and 2 6s, 184 strike rate for him. So a respectable total that they put up. And you think that, hey, you know what? South Africa can chase us down. They have the likes of Quinton de Kock and Riley Rousseau, Aiden Markram, David Miller. They got this. And Hendrik Klaassen was also on the team. I totally forgot about that. No, man. No. They start losing wickets at regular intervals. And they just, South Africa bottle it, as they do. They are the ultimate chokers of all international cricket events. And this is it. This goes to show what they do wrong. And, I think Brendan Glover took 3 wickets, 2 overs, 9 runs. He was the highest wicket taker. I remember Bas de Leede also became one of the stars for the Netherlands teams. And they came in, they secured the back. We had a bunch of players on the podcast from that 2022 Pakistan team, because they were playing on the same ground, I believe. And they told us that the way that the Netherlands team was walking out, they talked to the Pakistani players. They told them, hey, we did what we did. Now go beat Bangladesh, make it to the semis. And that's what they did. Pakistan comes out, a different team. They can smell that semifinal spot now, and they completely demolish the Bengali team.
And I remember we had a watch party for that match, and we had the
Bangladeshi team. Sorry.
We got some pizza, we got some wings, and we really enjoyed that match. Pakistan, again, they beat Bangladesh. But that World Cup, the similarities to the 1992 World Cup they're sort of in your face. You couldn't ignore them. It was like something is happening. There's a World Cup happening in Australia after 30 years. And the similarities from that World Cup to this World Cup are uncanny. Pakistan losing to India, Pakistan losing to Zimbabwe, and then Pakistan going on to beat some of the top teams like South Africa, and then beating Netherlands and Bangladesh, just barely qualifying. The semi-final against New Zealand, the final against England.
Yeah. At the MCG.
Just Like, I mean, you can't script the stuff.
Yeah, totally. And until the very last match, I think Pakistan was like on a high. They were like, "This is it, guys. We're repeating '92." Because if you follow Pakistan cricket even remotely, the whiff of the '92 World Cup is so strong on this team. There is not a moment that the Pakistani fan will not bring up the '92 World Cup and how we did it. And oh my God, Imran Khan was the greatest. And look what he did in the semis. And, even the 2009 World Cup that Pakistan won, they keep bringing up the similarities between, Shahid Afridi was like Imran Khan. He came one down. He solidified that base. And Champions Trophy, again, you find the similarities. People put, the archetype of Imran Khan, they try to find that in every single captain ever since Imran retired. And, this was the most insane turn of events when this was going on. The way it was going on, I just think if Pakistan was a little bit more brave in the final, they would have been able to score 20 odd runs, 25 odd runs, and it's Pakistan's game.
It seemed like they were out there trying to score 240 on a pitch where 160, like the game against India, would have been more competitive. Yeah. And people often say, what if Shaheen didn't get injured? But I say, what if we had 25 more runs? Like, what if Rizwan and Babar had scored better? What if Iftikhar had not choked? And sometimes we forget to talk about Shan Masood in that World Cup. He was Pakistan's highest run scorer, a player who sort of came out of nowhere. There's a lot of media pressure between him being put into the team, and he scored tons of runs. And now he's been sidelined. I'm sure he must think what happened to his batting form, what happened to his place in the team. But I think at that time we needed a technically sound player who could come in and play number 3, number 4, sort of hold the innings together for Pakistan. And I think he did a great job. The spell from Naseem Shah in that final is something that I keep going back and watching. And I think Naseem on our podcast mentioned, like, it seemed like somebody would pray Durood Sharif, like Ben Stokes and Joss Butler, because the ball was not hitting their edges. They were just going past the bat and straight to Mohammad Rizwan. But it was a treat to watch that spell. And, who knows? What if Shaheen didn't get injured?
Yeah, honestly. And I just looking at the scorecard, Mohammad Haris had sort of solidified his spot at number 3 in that World Cup after he replaced Fakhr. And, the final was just too big for him. He scored 8 runs off 12 balls, just could not pick up Rashid. Iftikhar comes in, abysmal performance from him. 0 runs off 6 balls in a World Cup.
Plays a maiden over.
Plays a complete maiden over. Shahzad comes in and steers their boat a little bit forward, and Pakistan struggled their way up to 137. No finish from the bottom at all. Mohammad Wasim plays 8 deliveries, scores 4. Nawaz plays 7 deliveries, scores 5. Shaheen hits a 4, and that's it. Like, any of these bottom guys come in and contribute, maybe a 15 off 7 or even a 10 off 8, and the score is in the high 150s. Pakistan win this, I believe, because England won this in the last over.
These last 4 guys played 19 balls. If they had scored 30, 35, 40 maybe, it would have been a much more competitive, much more close match.
Because you come out and you see that England was 3 for 45 in under 6 overs. You already had the top 3 boys down. Naseem Shah was bowling brilliantly. Shaheen Afridi came back with his first over wicket, and Haris Rauf was just dropping rockets on the pitch. It just felt like if there were more runs on the board, the pressure would have been on Ben Stokes and Moeen Ali. And I think, look, Ben Stokes comes out, scores 52 off 49. Right? That's not a spectacular innings. He just held his nerve. That same innings with a run with a total of 150, 155, different ball game altogether.
I'm just looking at the impact that Joss Butler had on that match. I remember Naseem Shah was
You were terrified of Joss Butler.
No, Naseem Shah was bowling unplayable deliveries, and this guy comes in, just scoops him for a 6. And I'm like, bro, that is fearless cricket. That is playing cricket to what you believe in. And that's exactly what the England team since 2015 ODI World Cup believe in. They believe in going out, putting the other team under pressure, whether it be through taking wickets or scoring runs. So a World Cup that Pakistan could have won. I wasn't really banking on Pakistan winning the World Cup, but the turn of events were such that I was like, okay, this could be a World Cup we could win. So 2021, 2022, 2 World Cups where we could have gone And sometimes I look back and think, what if Babur had won an Asia Cup, or what if he won a T20 World Cup? What sort of legacy or impact could he would have had in the Pakistan setup?
I don't think the Asia Cup means that much, to be honest. It would have been nice to have one. I mean, it's crazy that Pakistan only has 2. That's wild to me. Sri Lanka has like 11 or something. That's insane to me. But especially given the teams that Pakistan has had over the years, that it's just insane. But Dan, these two, the 21 and 22 Cricket World Cup, I think have a damning effect on a Pakistan cricket fan. And that was when the start of this podcast really blossomed. And people really started listening to us, and we started coming on the air. And I think the 2023 World Cup really solidified Backward Point in its place for sure. But yeah, I mean, I look back and I sometimes go back and listen to those pods that we did, and just the sheer pain that we have in our voice. I just hope that it changes. With the 2024 World Cup round the corner, we'll do a deep dive into the teams then. But the usual suspects are back. The main characters are back. Power back with captaincy. See what happens.
Babar Azam era 2.0. Here we go. Going into this next World Cup. I thoroughly enjoyed looking back at these World Cups with you because it made me tap into a different part of my memory and brought back a lot of happy memories as well as some sad ones. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, let us know what your favorite memory of the World Cups were. What are your highlights? What are your favorite memories that you have watching with your family, friends? And hopefully we can make some better, more fun memories coming up in this World Cup.
Yep, extremely well said. Thank you guys for tuning in for the whole hour and 35 minutes of this podcast. This is a super podcast, and appreciate you guys staying to the end. If you guys stay to the end, what emoji should they put out on the comments?
Rewind. The arrows.
Let's run it back. Rewind. Rewind emoji if you guys made it to the end. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.